I don't recommend anybody start off spending several $1,000s and then just give it up after a few weeks, and then you've got this massive paperweight, you know? I would start with a used camera and lens and start playing around with it and learn your manual settings, and then kind of chip away at it from there. You develop a love for snapshots, and then how do you create that snapshot? How do you take that snapshot into a little more of an elegant photo? You start learning your lighting, your settings, and then once you get comfortable with it and you think you want to take this on full time.
Thanks for joining us today. Where are you calling from?
I'm here in San Antonio, Texas.
In San Antonio, Texas. Great. You starting your day or you've been hard at work?
Just getting started. I'm a night owl and I work late. So most of my time is spent afternoon for sure.
In the afternoons. That's great. Well, I appreciate you taking the time out to join us today to talk a little bit about your industry and some of the challenges that you've been facing. We're going to go over some trends in your industry. I want to learn a little bit more about you and what it is that you do. And it'll be a good time. How does that sound?
Very good. Sounds good to me.
All right, brother. Well, first and foremost, let's get a little bit of information about you. Tell us about yourself, what you do.
My name is Ryan Hamilton. I'm a full-time wedding photographer in San Antonio. Been shooting weddings and events since 2004. It's definitely a seasonal position. It gets too hot down here, and then the occasional week when it freezes. So we don't get too many August events and too many February events, but they do trickle through. Seasonal in the event that October, November is definitely the time frame, as well as March and April. Those are the times that we really go nuts with the event planning, the portraits, all that good stuff. But genuinely, we don't have too many interruptions with bad weather, knock on wood. So that definitely helps with scheduling. What we kind of get used to it, we kind of get in our own little comfort zones. When we do have bad weather, we don't really know what to do.
Yeah.
Having to reschedule a few portraits or events, maybe an elopement or two, can definitely get a little haywire when you're not used to moving things around.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And so what is your company called? What's the name of your company?
Ryan Hamilton Photography, and then my website, ryanhamiltonphoto.com. And
Great.
from there, you can check out all my portfolio and contact me. Bridal portraits, engagement sessions, and then the weddings, big and small. And I do a lot of maternity photo as well.
It's great. So that's a little bit about what you offer. You do photography and you offer, wedding packages, elopement, as you said, probably engagement too, some maternity photos, portraits. So you do a
Absolutely,
little bit of everything.
yeah, a little bit of everything in the wedding realm. Like I'll do some real estate and I'll do some baby and family, but primarily I'll stick to the weddings, the couples, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And so you said that you've been working in it since 2004 now. So that's several years that you've been working there being that you're somebody that's worked in it for so long, there's got to be something that keeps you in it. So what do you say is like, what do you like about it? What do you like about wedding photography so much that has kept you in the industry for so long?
It's an outlet for the creative type for sure. It's definitely a way to keep the part of my brain functioning that just wants to finger paint all day.
Yeah.
And the schedule isn't too bad. You can definitely make your own schedule. It's full time for me, but I tell folks this is a great part-time industry as long as you can keep your wits about you. If you are a stay-at-home parent and one of the other folks is the major breadwinner with a real nice gig, this is a great industry if you're just a weekend warrior, and then you can
Mm.
fill it in as you'd like. I really enjoy doing the weekend events, but then during the week I'll fill it in with some corporate stuff. So that helps me out staying busy. And you can be as busy as you'd like, making your own schedule and whatnot. That's definitely a big benefit of the industry is that it's primarily a weekend industry. So you
Yeah.
can kind of mold it around your schedule. If you have, 25 dogs or 6 kids or whatever your deal is, you can, instead of taking a whole week for daycare or something, you can just take one day, and hopefully help keep that in your schedule, keep that in in your bank flows.
Yeah, that's great. I think that, I think you have a point there with it being a weekend industry. So many people are so busy during the week that they say, they may have a camera at home and they love taking pictures, they love being creative, but they just say, I don't have any time for it. It's like, well, you have, a couple hours on the weekend that you can go out, shoot a friend's wedding, shoot do it for free for somebody, get it, some content out there. And, as you said, it's one of those industries that can really be molded around your schedule because you make your own schedule. You say,
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm only going to take weddings on Saturdays from 5 moving forward because I have something going on. I have my Pilates in the morning and I don't want to miss it, like anything like that. You can really mold it around your schedule. And I think that's a great thing. And so, given that you're somebody that recognizes that, you also mentioned that it is part time for some, but it's full time for you. So, even though you mold it around your schedule, this has become a full time thing. So, how long has photography been full time for you?
It's been full time since 2011. That's when I stopped being. I was a hotel valet for about 10 years,
Mm.
running around for cars, delivering luggage, and I loved it because I'm chatty patty and I can talk with 100 different people within 20 minutes. So if you see me outside of a wedding, I'm usually in the corner hiding and crying about life. But if you can get me to chat it up a little bit on the right topic, I won't shut up. It's kind of annoying. So in this industry, I'm allowed to talk to folks, to socialize as much as I want without getting too overwhelmed. And that's something I really haven't thought of until now is that folks with like sensory overload, like they just can't stand crowds of people, you can do
Mm.
elopements and just a couple sessions. You don't need to do the big 500 guest weddings. So you can keep that creativity going without having a massive timeline. You can just stick to smaller events where other folks would stick to bigger events. So I think this wedding has a lot of advantages depending on your interest and what your skill set or lack thereof. Man, I know some folks that can't fit through a door, and this is the way they make it happen. Um,
Yeah.
uh, like uh, um, mentally, physically, have one issue or another, a silly issue or a medical issue, and this is the industry that they've chosen to stick with because it is pretty forgiving if you make it that way. And then, like I said
Yeah.
earlier, if you want to go full time with it and really make a name for yourself, then sure, make it full time and become a well-known individual. But if you want to make a few bucks as a weekend warrior, that doesn't hurt anybody either.
Yeah, I think it's a great perspective to have on it for people that are, you just described a whole range of people that are, that have social anxiety, that may have some health issues, that may be prone to, being uncomfortable in large crowds, or they actually love crowds and they want to be in that. It's kind of an industry for anybody that is willing to take the time out to learn the skill, to apply it, and then to get themselves out there. Like you said, it starts off like part time. You go to a couple weddings on the weekends. Maybe if you are anxious, you just do an elopement or two. You make a few extra bucks, and then people start to get to know you. They start to recognize you like yourself. You started back in 2004, made it full time in 2011, and then from there, I'm assuming like, a lot of people started to get to know you enough to bring you back both in the corporate space and the wedding space and and the family space to where everybody started to bring you in and say like, hey, like, yeah, that's Ryan Hamilton. That's somebody that you want to bring in because he's a killer photographer, right? And I see that across Google on different platforms. You have a 5-star rating in places like The Knot, Wedding Wire, and other places. You've been featured on the Texas Wedding Guide as a top photographer on there. So I think it's safe to say that despite being somebody that recognizes that you can be anybody and be molded to this industry, you're somebody that has said like, I'm going to dedicate myself, I'm going to make it what I want it to be, and now you've made a name for yourself. So I think that's
Yeah.
pretty great, pretty inspirational for anybody that wants to pick up a camera and say, hey, like, I want to do this. Where
Yeah.
do I start?
I
Well, you
think
start like Ryan.
if you have a passion for it, for sure. If you're, let's say, for example, you're in high school and you're just kind of messing around with an old camera, a used camera, I don't recommend anybody start off spending several $1,000s and then just give it up after a few weeks, and then you've got this massive paperweight. I would start with a used camera and lens and start playing around with it and learn your manual settings, and then kind of chip away at it from there. You develop a love for snapshots, and then how do you create that snapshot, and how do you take that snapshot into a little more of an elegant photo You start learning your lighting, your settings, and then once you get comfortable with it and you think you want to take this on full time, whether you're a YouTube warrior or you actually pay for school, either way, I mean, with technology nowadays, you kind of don't even need to pay for school as long as you're learning from the right people and learning the right things. But once you say that you're going to go for it full time or part time, then you can start investing in gear. And then that's a whole other story by itself. I mean, gear can get pretty expensive. I'm sure every industry has their necessary items as well as their, I bought it just for fun, or I bought it just cause the movie American Psycho, where all the guys are sitting around the table discussing business cards. I'm sure you can go nuts spending more and more and more money on just business cards, which only cost a few $100s, let alone several thousand for lenses and lighting and cameras. So when you really make that plunge and really start to either hone your craft or hone your business, I think that's when things can really start rolling. Then you make the meet the right people and talk to planners and florists. Even if you are part time, you still want to have those part-time gigs. You still want to be in the scene, if you will, to get those phone calls, to get those inquiries. So I think weddings and events as a whole is very fun and very social. Even if you don't want it to be, you can take the smaller events. And then if you want to go into photography in general, definitely hone your creative side. And then you jump from that into the business side, and then you really it just layer upon layer for sure. So
Yeah.
I love it. I've been doing it for a couple years, and I think I will probably, for better or for worse, I will probably continue it for the rest of my career. Even though some days, some months, you want to give it up because there's just nothing happening. You know, you're waiting for the freeze to end. You're waiting for the heat to calm down, and you're
Yeah.
sitting around watching Netflix for a full month. I mean, how many Hallmark movies can you watch in the freeze of 2021? I think all of the Lacey Chabert movies lined up. I think I got them all. But
You've watched
yeah,
them all.
I got them all. I got them all. The small town doctor just wants to make cookies, and then you apply that plot however it works out for a dozen different movies.
Yeah, cookie cutter, if you will. That's
There you
great,
go.
man. You have a some extensive knowledge on the industry, both in the operational space, the technical space, but also just like long-term business space on how to be able to make it something that's been full time. And you seem pretty passionate about it, like you say, it's your way of honing your creativity, of itching that part of your brain that wants to, like you said, finger paint, that wants to do those things, and you've made it a career that you want to last a lifetime. And so one of the things that I was curious about that I'm wondering is, like, despite it being, or with it being full time and having low months, how do you balance the two? How is it that you're able to stay at home and, watch the Hallmark movies on the days that are freeze, that, you have the months that freeze out, or you have months that are too hot or anything like that? How is it that you're able to continue going in those times of challenge?
I think if you want to make a bigger company, for example, and you want to have lots of worker bees under you, and you can accept a few dozen gigs a day, so the slow months kind of even out. When you're a sole proprietor or a smaller company, those slower months can definitely add up. So you just either one of several ways. Let's say you're March, April, May, very, very busy, and it takes you a while to get to the editing part, to get to the product part, the prints, albums, that kind of thing. And that kind of filters out through the summer and into the, let's say August, for example. So you're not working as much outside, but you're finishing up with your edits, prints, and albums and stuff. You're making your large books for the wedding couple. And then the same thing when you get into the fall, October, November, and then December is some corporate stuff, some Christmas stuff. January down here in Texas doesn't get too cold just yet, but it really hits in February. You can kind of carry over the post production part of the events from the fall and winter and into February. So you kind of spread out your workload, for example. Once you're comfortable kind of spreading that out, so you're all caught up. Let's say February is a time to do wedding shows, open houses. So you can, again, if you don't want to do any of those and just catch up on your editing, then once the spring starts again, it's a fresh start and you're beginning anew. Or if you want to stay busy, this is the time to look over your contracts and make sure everything still looks good. Maybe you're just getting started and you have a standard contract and you don't know what to add personally because you haven't experienced
Mm.
much. So once you start experiencing things yourself, or you start hanging out in forums and you hear these horror stories or these little, what do you call it, eccentricities of the wedding industry, and maybe you
Yeah.
figure out that you want to add certain things to your contracts. For example, for me, I mean, it definitely varies per couple, but I like to tell them that weekend portraits may not necessarily be available. And they ask, why can't I get my photos done on the weekend? I work during the week.
Mm.
And my response is, well, I'm a wedding photographer and the weekends are weddings. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, sometimes Thursday, I'm doing events, I'm doing weddings, and I don't like to double and triple stack, especially on a wedding day when potentially it's a full day event. So I like to
Yeah.
keep my portraits Monday through Thursday.
Yeah.
And then to add on top of that, I've learned over the years for potential delays or weather days or whatnot, and then you're all stacked up and you have nowhere to move somebody. I like to keep my portraits Monday and Tuesday if I can, so that if something happens, Wednesday and Thursday are the backups.
Right.
So I have that kind of built into the system. And then if something does happen and you're shooting on a Wednesday or a Thursday, there's no issue because you didn't book it initially.
Right.
Especially when you're a weekend photographer or any job, right? You need to have some sort of day off. And usually my days off are Mondays. So if I book a portrait on Monday, well then I'm gonna need some sort of day to just lounge around doing nothing to recharge, just fall into a hot tub of gummy bears, you know? So we'll push that day off to Wednesday or Thursday. So you gotta manage your health as well, your mental health. And that's a big conversation past couple years when it usually just the conversation of I need a day off or a vacation day, or the age old storyline of I need a drink after work. Today was frustrating. I need a
Yeah.
drink. Well, instead of requiring a trip to the bar, you can just require a day off. You know, whether it's video
Yeah.
games, movies, TV shows, read a book, take a bath, walk the dog, you still need to take care of yourself too. So if you're having a miserable season and you're not giving yourself time off to recharge, you might need to take a second look into your schedule for sure. You don't want to book too much.
Yeah. No, I think that the years definitely show in terms of experience and knowing like, hey, like even in the low months, I have work to do in that time from those other,
Mhm.
events. Cause people say like photography is not just a day of activity. You're not like other wedding vendors that will go out and like bartenders show up and they make the drinks. Musicians will show up and they'll play some music. Afterwards, they just get to go home. But when you go home, the work is just beginning.
Right.
Right. And so then you have to spend all that time editing, like you said, creating packages for your clients. And so spreading that out over the course of several months and creates your ability to, even when you have low months of clients booked, you still have high months in terms of workload. So
Yeah.
you're always staying busy. And in that busyness, you're maintaining a balance between, giving yourself days off, working really hard, reaching out to clients and understanding more insights of the industry so that you can always progress, always better your offers, so that you don't get left behind. And being that you're somebody that's been in it for so many years, that has paid off because some photographers will start. I can imagine that they don't do any research, they don't do any market, they have no market knowledge, and they're not in those forums that you're in. They don't recognize the nuances of the industry. And, 2, 3 years later, they're like struggling and now they don't know what to do. Right.
Right.
And
Right.
so understanding all that is probably something that's helped you all this time. And so you've grown it fairly well. What do you say is, your average amount of bookings per month would you say that you have? If you have an average of how many weddings do you say that you do on a monthly basis?
It definitely varies. I mean, it varies for sure throughout the year. Let's say, for example, large weddings, large events versus smaller events and portraits. Probably um, two large events a month, and then probably 3 to 4 portraits and elopements during the week. And that's to make sure I have a day off for editing and to recharge, and then a day to potentially reschedule some things. The larger weddings, if you're booking a venue and you're having 200 guests, those are going to happen rain or shine for sure.
Hmm.
But even then, when you have a couple who's spending a lot of money, um, and they're expecting this picturesque, beautiful golden sunset, and then it's the one day out of the year we get a monsoon.
Yeah.
Like I totally feel for you for sure. So Let's just enjoy our day as is. Let's not freak out. Let's enjoy the catering, enjoy the bar. If the photos have to get pushed back, we can do family photos for the folks that have traveled, and make
Mm.
sure all of the ancestry.com photos are knocked out. But
Yeah.
then as far as the couple, we can always reschedule photos for just them. And it doesn't necessarily have to be at the venue. We can go anywhere. But we can go out to West Texas. We can go up north. If they have a favorite area, since it was rained out or it was weathered out, we can technically go wherever we want. So
Mm.
I like to keep that option open and not nickel and dime my clients, because I know that I didn't necessarily provide. Although yes, the day was covered, the day was documented. I was there per contract, but I didn't get my creativity out of it. And then the couple
Mm.
didn't quite get the photos that they were expecting. So if they want to go nuts and go somewhere exotic, or just reschedule it for a regular portrait session, I always keep that open as an option, because the last thing you want is to have regrets after a magical day, a fun day. You're excited about spending the rest of your life with someone, and always flipping for the cool side of the pillow. You want to have
Yeah.
a good. You don't want to start it off on the wrong foot. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's super important too, is to make sure that your couples know that you actually do care. As cheesy as it sounds, as stupid as it sounds, like this is kind of a cute and cuddly industry, um,
Mm.
and you want to make sure that the clients are happy with the results.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think that there's a saying that goes, "We're all in the hospitality industry,"
For
right?
sure.
Because hospitality isn't just restaurants. It's not just where you worked in a hotel yourself, so you know all about it. And that experience working in the hotel industry definitely transferred over into what you're doing now, is bringing in that hospitality, saying like, "Hey, you guys aren't just numbers on a screen. You're not just another lead. You're not just another couple. You are somebody that is bringing provision to me, my family, my business, and in return, I'm going to make this exactly what you want it to be. Make it as tailored, as personal as possible, accommodating, and you give yourself the space to do that. You know, you don't overbook, you don't overload yourself, and you give yourself a balance to be able to bring these clients the best experience possible for what they want. And being able to, to provide that for them is something that separates you from, other vendors that are just like, hey, like, it got rained out, that's too bad, I'm not giving you your deposit back, we're just gonna do what we can, then I'll see you later, right?
Yeah.
You're giving them something that not only makes them happy, makes you creative, which makes you happy, but also whenever they talk to their other newlywed couples, or engaged couples, and they say, hey, do you know of any photographers? They say, yes, Ryan. Why? Because Ryan came in and our day got rained out, and he offered to schedule it for free to another day, and he went with us, and he took these amazing pictures. He got it back to us on time, and it was just wonderful. And that is the client retention and the rapport that has given you all these ratings over the years. So I think that that hospitality ideology is what's contributed in a large part to your success. So kudos to you for maintaining that in an industry where people sometimes can get kind of grumpy, and they can get kind of selective and a little prideful in a sense whenever their calendars are booked up, and they say like, hey, that's too bad, I actually have another wedding tomorrow that pays more than you. You, I guess, suck it up and find somebody else that's cheaper. And
Yeah.
that's not the attitude that you want to have to keep your clients. So you know you have a ton of experience in this industry. You have a lot of years of hard work that have gone into it. You want this to be something that you do full time for as long as you can do it. So tell me, Ryan, what are your goals, at least short term, 6 to 12 months for your business right now? I know it may just be you working, or you and another photographer. So on your website, you offer some services with two photographers. So you have a small team where you're working with. Um, and you can only book so many weddings in 1 month and throughout the year. So what it is mid to long term goal? Let's start off with just 6 to 12 months for your business.
Man, in the immediate, it's nice to just enjoy the weather. I mean, that's
Yeah.
probably the big thing, for me, and then for anybody really, just to have a Coke and a smile, to
Hmm.
worry about your health and taking your meds on time, and making sure the doctor's happy, making sure your mom's happy, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I think those are like the immediate goals. And then when you branch off a little bit from there, I'm hoping to take another vacation in the next few months just to see something different. Not just little family trips, but a whole new set of Americana, or maybe even go to Europe or one of those kind of things. That I don't consider that a far off dream. That's still pretty immediate. I still want to get out there because the world might blow up tomorrow. I might stub my pinky toe. I mean, the world can drastically change just like that. So yeah, there's this restaurant in Italy that's built into the cliff, and
Mm.
it's the super fine dining restaurant. They probably don't serve SpaghettiOs there, but I hear it's pretty expensive. But in the next few years, that's definitely on the bucket list for sure. Is to go pretend I'm high society and eat there. Olive Garden is good in the meantime, but I think as far as the business goes, it's just to keep chipping away, and even if it's one little thing I can do at a wedding. Let's say you've got a wedding that's all over the place, and I tell myself, "Oh man, I need to really rein it in and make sure that the timeline is a little more strict for the next event." And then you get the next event with
Mm.
a strict timeline, and you think, "No, we're having a great time. Let me just loosen it up a little bit." I don't think we need this many rules. And then the next couple, wants to slow it down again. You're like, okay, cool. Well, here's a little more of a strict timeline. We'll keep things together. So I think keeping that open and fluctuating with each couple kind of helps in the uh, what are my goals, and it's just to maintain a positive atmosphere, which doesn't always happen. I mean, I'm super grumpy. You want to talk about spending your 20s in hotels? I thought then, they want to give you a bunch of empowerment speeches. This is your hotel. Take pride and do it. I think I did too much. I got a little grumpy about certain regulations and whatever. So I would tell myself now, it's been 20 years. I'd say, dude, it's just a job. Don't freak yourself out. Enjoy your 9 to 5. Enjoy working for tips, and then just go home. Don't pretend it's not your
Mm.
hotel. You didn't buy it for a couple $1 million. They're not going to change things just for
Mm.
you. Whether they should or shouldn't, it's not going to happen. So tell my younger self, dude, just go to the bar afterwards, and
Mm.
don't lose sleep over why doesn't the front desk get painted or something silly.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen, guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, the immediate goals is just to keep. I jump around a lot if you haven't noticed already. The immediate goals is to keep your sanity, to enjoy the woosah moment, and to keep building the business, even if it's just a few gigs here and there, of a few couples here and there. I
Yeah.
wish I had some grand prophetic speech about I'm going to add a chandelier to the studio, or I'm gonna book a wedding on top of the Empire State Building or something. No, man, it's probably just go to Quiznos and do some portraits, and then on with the next one. If everyone's happy and smiley, I want them to come back. I want to be a part of everyone's family. And then you think,
Mm.
well, I had a great shoot. This was amazing. This went great. We're going to be best friends. And then you realize that no, they hired you to help them, and that served a purpose.
Mm.
Now let's go on to the next couple. And if as long as I do my job correctly, they love their photos. As long as they're happy, then I did my job.
Mm. Yeah.
If we become best friends and go to lunch and go to dinner and start playing splashy splashy in the hot tub, that's
Yeah.
fantastic, and I like when that happens. But I've learned not to get too upset when folks hire you for a job and you complete the job to their satisfaction, and that's the end of
Yeah.
it. So yeah, it would be nice to have a long friends list of every couple I've ever shot forever. But
Yeah.
when you get down to it, it's like, no, man, like they have their life, and they hired you.
Mm.
Like if you're going to build a sidewalk, build a pool, be a plumber, whatever the deal is, hired you for a
Yeah.
job. It was successful. Thank you for paying your part of society and coming over and
Mm.
helping me with my home repairs. And now you get to go back out and help somebody else, and then I get to continue my life. So adding that
Yeah.
to the wedding industry, not everybody wants to be besties. So
No,
I can
I think you're
go cry in the corner for that.
Well, Ryan, I think that you are one of the rare vendors, honestly, rare businessmen that not only takes pride in his work, but finds joy in the socializing with their clients. You are not the type of guy that sees a client as just a number on the screen. You take things day by day. Like you said, you're just enjoying your days. You're making sure mom's happy, the doctor's happy, and that your clients are happy. And you are more than happy to stay with them and talk to them. You wish they could all be your friends. And that right there is something that I think so many businesses get wrong. And when you're talking about having a business that's long term, like you can have a business that's successful and very, very successful in the short term because, you're providing a really good service, but your personal connection and your reputation starts to go down because people just feel like you're a robot. You're a company that is, just out to get you type of thing. Like there's a saying that also goes that if you book a client and then go, aha, got ya, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
But for you, you say like, oh, I'm booking this client. This client is going to be my entire Saturday and the months after as I work on their things, as I sit there and after the wedding, I forget that I'm a photographer and I'm just here talking, chatting it up with them like that. Leaves an impression on the people that actually appreciate that type of stuff that lasts a lifetime. So, again, kudos to you for your success. And I hope and pray that you continue to speak to clients in that way and to create that reputation for yourself that goes against the grain of what, sometimes turns industries into robotic, kind of mundane services. So I think as we wrap up today's conversation, I have one last question for you. And I thank you again for all your input, your insights, your attitude. You've been real fun to talk to. So the last question I'll have for you that you've kind of answered already is, what is one piece of advice that you would give to aspiring photographers that are either already starting, wanting to start, or have been doing this for a couple of years like yourself?
One piece of advice I would say to learn the craft first. But learn the craft and make sure you enjoy it before you try taking it into a business mold. If you start off right away and you jump into some of these forums on Facebook, for example, I'm shooting my first wedding tomorrow. What should my settings be? Well,
Mm,
your settings are going to be everything. You know,
mm,
if you're using manual settings, yeah, you're going to be all over the place. Now, if you're just shooting sunset or you're just shooting mornings, generally that's going to be, one little time frame. So your settings won't change so much. But for a fluid event, your lighting, your camera settings is going to be all over the board. So, and it can get stressful. So
yeah.
make sure you know your craft, make sure you understand it and you actually enjoy it. Because if you don't know what you're doing and a couple is paying you to document their day, and you're in the corner trying to figure out your camera, which has happened when you have like a technical difficulty, and you're hitting 1,000 buttons and you just don't know what went
Mm,
wrong and you're starting to look silly. Just drop that camera and pick up your backup and just continue the day, and you'll have time later on with a fresh set of eyes. All right, what's going on? Let me actually dial this in and troubleshoot. And that comes from experience and knowing, do I have time to fiddle with this, or can I just drop the camera, put it down? I have a backup camera which is usually of similar quality or the exact same camera twice. So yeah, enjoy it and love it and learn it. I feel like a teacher, and do your best to hone your craft before you start putting yourself out there and then a horror story happens.
yeah. Love it, Ryan.
Absolutely.
Where can we find you? I know you said it at the beginning, but say it again for all intents and purposes.
RyanHamiltonPhoto.com, and then on Instagram, Ryan Hamilton Photography.
Excellent, Ryan. Thank you again for your time. It's been a great conversation, lots of insights into the industry, and I pray for your continued success, man. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ryan.
Bye.